Hello everybody, welcome back to another video, and in today's video we are going to be doing another update of Washington Dulles International Airport. And today's update is going to be quite an interesting one because we have a United focused update today. My model airport of Washington Dulles only includes concourses A and B, while the real Washington Dulles includes concourses A, B, C and D, and then they also have the Z gates, which are just 4 gates located over by the main check-in terminal. The reason why I don't include every concourse at Washington Dulles on my model airport is just because that model airport would be so big, I just don't have the space for it. I'm quite happy with that just because concourses A and B are my favorite concourses. They are the concourses where basically every airline at Washington Dulles fly into, apart from United fly into concourses C and D, and then Air Canada fly into those Z gates that I mentioned just now. But today I've decided to switch some things around, and I'm essentially going to be using concourses A and B as concourses C and D. So we have a couple other airlines taxiing around, but all the aircraft at the gates today will be United aircraft. This is going to be pretty good because we can go over some of my United collection and also go over some of the aircraft I want companies to release, and also some different United routes. So this is going to be a pretty interesting update. But starting off here at the runway, we have a new aircraft in my collection here. We have this Avianca Airbus A320. Avianca fly a lot into Washington Dulles. They have 3 subsidiaries that fly into Washington Dulles. The way that Avianca subsidiaries work, and I'm going to use a different example for this, and my example is Norse Atlantic. So Norse Atlantic are a relatively new transatlantic low-cost airline. They are a Norwegian airline, so of course they have a hub in Oslo, but they also have a hub in London Gatwick. Now the reason they can do this is because they have a subsidiary called Norse Atlantic UK, which is a British company, but of course they can have aircraft registered under this British company that can fly flights from London Gatwick. So that gives them the availability to fly flights from both Oslo and London Gatwick. And that's similar to the way that Avianca work. They have a number of subsidiaries of different countries in South America, and here at Washington Dulles we get 3 of those. So we get the main Avianca, which is of course from Colombia. The main Avianca brand, they fly to Bogota. We then have Avianca Costa Rica. They fly to Guatemala City and San Jose. And then we also get Avianca El Salvador, who fly to San Salvador. But this particular Avianca A320 is going to be making a flight out to Guatemala City today. Next up, moving over to the terminal now, here we have this United Boeing 737-900ER. This aircraft is going to be heading out to Cancun in Mexico. We then have this United Airbus A319. This aircraft is going to be heading out to Austin in Texas. And then here we have a brand new aircraft for United. This is United's brand new Airbus A321neo. United have just got their A321neos in operation. I believe they have 3 or 4 of these currently in operation, but they have a number of these on order. And they also have the XLR, which is the extra long range version of the A321neo on order as well. Those will go on to replace the next aircraft. I'll get to that in a second, but this brand new A321neo is going to be heading out to San Francisco in California. And this is the aircraft that the new United A321neo XLRs are going to be replacing. This is of course the Boeing 757-200, which is a beautiful aircraft, and this aircraft is going to be heading out to Dublin in Ireland. After that, here we have a United Boeing 737-800. This aircraft is going to be heading out to Houston in Texas. We then have this United Boeing 737 MAX 8. This aircraft is going to be heading out to Fort Myers in Florida. We then have another United 737-800. This aircraft is going to be heading out to Tampa in Florida. We then have this United Airbus A319. This aircraft is going to be heading out to Jacksonville in Florida. And then next up here we have a makeshift United Express kind of terminal area. Of course, this is my section of Concourse B where the domestic airlines like Alaska and and American Airlines usually depart from, but I've kind of retrofitted it for this update to be a United Express gate area. So the way that this sort of works is the passengers will exit out the terminal, out of that lowered jet bridge there, and then walk themselves to the aircraft. They do this in a similar fashion at the real Washington Dulles with the actual United Express aircraft over in concourses C and D. They'll essentially park two United Express aircraft at one big wide body gate, and then you'll deplane the aircraft, walk up to a jet bridge and enter the jet bridge through stairs. It's a bit of a weird kind of situation, but United Express do this at the real Washington Dulles. So we have a few aircraft here. Starting off at the top of your screen, we have a United Express CRJ-200. This aircraft is going to be heading out to Roanoke in Virginia. Next to that, just taxiing out, we have another United Express CRJ-200. That aircraft is just taxiing out for a flight out to Columbia in South Carolina, and then behind that, just taxiing in to that spot there, we have another United Express CRJ-200, and that aircraft is just arriving in from Buffalo in New York. And then finally, at the bottom of your screen there, we have a United Express CRJ-550. This aircraft is just getting ready for a flight out to Pittsburgh in Pennsylvania. Next up, on the other side, we have another row of United Express aircraft. So starting off at the top, we have a United Express CRJ-550. This aircraft is going to be heading out to Rochester in New York. We then have a United Express CRJ-200 heading out to Johnstown in Pennsylvania. And then finally here we have a United Express CRJ-550 heading out to Richmond in Virginia. After that, sporting the older color scheme, here we have a United Express Embraer 175. This aircraft is going to be heading out to Syracuse in New York. After that, just pushing back, we have a United Express Embraer 175. This aircraft is going to be heading out to Newark in New Jersey. And then finally here we have a United Express Embraer 175 again. This aircraft is going to be heading out to Kansas City in Michigan. Next up here we have a United Boeing 737-900ER. This aircraft is going to be heading out to Norfolk in Virginia. We then have a United 737-800. This aircraft is going to be heading out to Orlando in Florida. We then have a United Airbus A319. This aircraft is going to be heading out to Boston in Massachusetts. We then have another United Airbus A319 heading out to Windsor Locks in Connecticut. We then have a United 737-900ER heading out to Chicago O'Hare in Illinois. And then finally here for the narrow bodies, we have this United Airbus A320. This aircraft is going to be heading out to Mexico City in Mexico. We then here have this United Boeing 777-200. This aircraft is going to be heading out to Frankfurt in Germany. We then have this United Boeing 777-200ER. This aircraft is going to be heading out to London Heathrow in England. We then have this United Boeing 787-9. This aircraft has just arrived in from Los Angeles in California. We then have the big boy. This is United's largest aircraft. We have the United Boeing 777-300ER. This aircraft is just getting ready for a flight out to Brussels in Belgium. We then have another United 777-200. This aircraft is going to be heading out to Paris in France. We then have this United Boeing 767-300. This aircraft is going to be heading out to Sao Paulo in Brazil. This flight is usually operated on the -400 version of the 767. And then finally here for United, the last wide body, we have this United, again, a 767-300. This aircraft is going to be heading out to Rome in Italy. Again, this aircraft is usually operated on a -400 to Rome. And then finally here, just taxiing out for a flight out to Vancouver, we have this Air Canada 737 MAX 8. Air Canada have a pretty interesting operation here at Washington Dulles. They operate all year round on their Air Canada Express aircraft to both Montreal and Toronto. They then operate this flight all year round on their mainline aircraft to Vancouver, and then they operate seasonally on their mainline aircraft to Toronto as well. But that does conclude today's update of Washington Dulles International Airport. I want to use this time at the end to just go through some of my United aircraft that I would like to see released and then added to my collection, of course. So I'm missing a few. There have been some that have been released that I've missed. So for example, the 737-700 and the 757-300, both of those were released in the new livery, but I unfortunately missed them, which is annoying. So hopefully they're either re-released or I can find them somewhere so I can add them to my collection. The 737-700s operate around the US and then down to the Caribbean from Washington Dulles, so they would be handy. And then I would just want one 757-300 because it's just a unique aircraft, and one that does of course operate into Washington Dulles. We haven't yet had the 737 MAX 9 in the new livery released. I do have a MAX 9 in the older color scheme, but we haven't had one in the new color scheme, and they operate quite a bit into Washington Dulles. I actually flew the MAX 9 from Washington Dulles up to Seattle last summer, so I'd like to see one of them released. Then probably one of the most obvious is the 767-400. Gemini Jets have started to release the 767-400s, but they've released the Delta 764. They've released, I think, the Delta Old Livery 764. They then released the United Continental Livery 764, which I know it's kind of nice to have as an option for a model. I didn't go for it because I just want the Evo Blue color scheme, but we haven't yet had the Evo Blue 767-400, and they operate a lot into Washington Dulles. We get a number of international routes on the 764, including Sao Paulo. Edinburgh is occasionally on the 764. We get London, Dublin, Paris. A bunch of different routes are usually on the 767-400, as well as Honolulu as well. That's usually on the 767-400, so hopefully soon we get a 767-400 released. The next one is a minor one just because we already have the 222s, but the 222ER, which is of course the extended range version, we haven't had one of them in the Evo Blue color scheme yet, so that would be cool. Next up, we have an aircraft which isn't at the fault of the manufacturers, it's more at the fault of United, the 787-8. United haven't painted their 787-8s into the new livery yet, which is weird. I know they were painted shortly before United announced the Evo Blue color scheme, which is the reason why they haven't been painted yet. So they're kind of the last priority to be painted, but hopefully we get a release or United paint their first 787-8 into the Evo Blue livery soon, so we can get some of them. Then we have the A320. We've had the A319 released, we just need the A320 in the new livery. And then finally, the one I've been waiting for forever, the ERJ-145 in the Evo Blue livery with the winglets. I think that aircraft looks incredible, but we haven't had it yet, so hopefully we get that released. And after we have all of those aircraft, my United collection will be essentially complete until United add other aircraft to their fleet in the future, but that will be it essentially. So that's what I'm hoping, but I hope you guys enjoyed today's update. It was pretty interesting to go through all the United aircraft for once instead of different internationals, but in the next Dulles update we'll be back to the regular concourses A and B updates. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed today's update, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.